Just makes me want to see it again, and I've seen it 3 times already. Please welcome to the stage director of the film, Tomas Alfredson, producer Robyn Slovo, and Smiley himself, Mr. Gary Oldman. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Let's get right in, if that's okay. Tomas, I want to start with you. I mean, congratulations to you all. What an amazing opening weekend you guys have had, and deservedly so. Tomas, no one makes films like this anymore. This is a breath of fresh air. In terms of you as a film fan, in terms of, I don't know, do you take inspiration from other films when you approach a new project yourself?
I try not to.
Okay.
I try to look at, paintings or listen to music or find things in real life. I look at a lot of films, but I do it for pleasure.
What did you want to achieve with this film?
You don't know that. It's just something. You read a script and you get a lot of images when you read it or not.
Yeah.
And you don't decide on, like, I want to do this, but you decide I want to start doing this. So you never know, really.
Does it evolve as you're making the film as well? Is that kind of, does it become something different than what you started out wanting to make?
Yeah,
as well?
It does. It does, for me. It does.
When you put together a cast like this as well, because I mean the chemistry and the tension between all your when you see everyone sat around that table and stuff, it's incredible. Was it a case of you had, the names in your head as to who you saw in those roles, and who would work well together?
Well, it's in this case it was crucial to have the right Smiley, so we didn't start the casting before we had Smiley, and that was a hard one.
Why was it hard?
Well, I don't know really, but I think one thing is that he's described as someone you would immediately forget.
Nice.
But Gary is the kind of actor that could, act that as someone you would forget.
Yeah.
But it's a big difference between that and actually forgetting him.
Yes, acting anonymity as opposed to being someone who was just anonymous. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's in terms of you, Gary. You said that you were surprised that you were approached to do Smiley. Is that true?
Well, yes, because I thought I thought I would be too young to play Smiley. And
everyone said, "Oh no!"
Yes, everyone said, "Who are you kidding?" But then I discovered that Tomas wanted to cast the film a little younger across the board, and there's the sort of image of Alec Guinness that had played I mean, many people have played Smiley, from James Mason to Anthony Hopkins to Alec Guinness, but I think he was in his late 60s when he played him. So I guess I just had that in my head.
Yeah.
That he was an older man. But I'm awfully glad that they asked me. Yeah.
He's very much an outsider, isn't he, Smiley? But you see throughout the film, he relishes the task that he's been given, and you see him grow in strength, I think, through the film as well.
Yes, he's an insider who becomes an outsider, but on the outside still has there's a loyalty and a respect that he commands, and that's why he can go to Gwilym and Mendel, because he's established these relationships over the years, and is very much respected within MI5, MI6.
Robyn, I'll come to you. In terms of a film like this, for me, no one makes films like this anymore. Does that make it harder to get off the starting blocks?
It was a hard film to get made. I mean, this film was made, I'm not the sole producer, I produced it with Tim Bevan of Working Title. And this, I think, is the first film in 100 Working Title films that is a totally independent film. And there is a reason for that. This was never... it was originally conceived as a studio film, but I think it was too scary a prospect for a studio. And I think the significant thing about this film is it was made entirely with French money by Studio Canal, which gives you, because they're European, and because we had the support of Tim Bevan and Working Title, I think we made the film we wanted to make, which I think is unusual. I mean, in all our experience.
Tomas, would you agree?
Yes. Yeah.
Straight in. Yep, definitely, 100%. In terms of you, John le Carré was very much part of the process as well, wasn't he? Is that a help, or does it make it more nerve-wracking? Is it great to have that reference point there of you're the man whose words created these characters initially on hand?
I think in this case it was extremely helpful, and he was very generous to us, and he didn't interfere. But I suppose in some other case it could be quite disturbing, and it's not. You don't make the film for the author of the book. You make it for the audience. But John le Carré was a fantastic source, and he's been a spy himself, which is quite thrilling. And
sit him down and just pull those stories out of him as you having coffee.
You don't need to pull them out. He's a jukebox. You just push a button and he starts telling all these stories.
Is that helpful for?
Well, I think in the same way that the film's incredibly rich, he is an incredibly rich human being. He has very original points of view on everything, and I think we've tried to convey that, and I think they've done it really successfully in this film. Yeah.
I was quite nervous, sort of meeting him, what's amazing is he's 80 this year, I think in October, and he's got the vitality and the energy and a prodigious memory, hasn't he? He's got, but it's kind of like being with a 40-year-old. I mean, but to have his blessing is everything.
You have his words. You have Tomas's kind of idea of how he wants George Smiley to be, but it's you have to create him as well. Where did that start, and where did you kind of find him, I guess?
The book.
Had you read the book before?
Yeah, long time ago. But you really everything you need to know about George is in that wonderful book. The initial, I think he could be everything. I mean, I think he's described in the book, and he's rather short, and he's a bit podgy. And I'm not, I'm not 6'4", but I'm not that. But he can be Gary, and he can be James Mason, and he can be Denholm Elliott, and he can be Alec Guinness. But the initial silhouette of Smiley, which was the sort of springboard, it came from Tomas, who sent me a picture of Graham Greene, a rather sort of romantic late 40s picture of him with a sort of cigarette and a Macintosh. And that was the first sort of image. But how you develop a character, it can come. Obviously, the source material was all there for me. Even really down to the cadence of his voice. He captures it in the book. But how you put a character together is it can come from photographs. It can be music. It can be. Each role that you play, in a way, it sets up its own hurdles that you have to jump.
Yeah.
And but I was lucky here because of the source material.
The way that the story plays out in the film, it's just really, like you say, that the flow of and the rhythm of things is just really beautiful, even though it's quite tense and there's a great moment. We're going to have a look at a clip right here with John Hurt and Mark Strong where we were introduced to Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Let's have a look at this. Disappointment in his voice when he says smiling.
Mm-hmm.
A wealth of treasure in terms of your cast and just, I mean, was it great just turning up to work every morning with this amazing selection of acting talent?
I think that yes, of course it was. Yes, of course. I think that when you have completed the casting, when you have the cast you want, you've done 70% of the film. These are the canvases that will make these words, come alive. And it was. I was quite nervous to start with, but it's like it's very nice to be with talented people, and it's easy to be talented yourself.
Were you more nervous about certain ones, or was it just a collection of these brilliant?
No, I mean, and it's as well. This is my first English language film, so it's. I lost 50% of my tools, my language, to express myself. So that was quite nervous to.
But I think that there's after a while. You say you're nervous initially because you are, and I'm in a room with people who that I admire. I have loved John Hurt's work for so many years, and I was like fanboy around sort of John. So I was sort of nervous to work with John, nervous to work with those people, and we're all. But once you start working, there's a shorthand that you acquire, and it's just a thing that you seem to with good people, with talented people that you just sort of fall into. And Tomas, he says that he lost 50% of his tools because of the language. I remember a scene where we did a rehearsal or we did a take, and Tomas said to me, "It needs a bit of and I said, "Oh yeah, I know what you mean." And then, I guess I knew what that meant. And then I did the take, and I said, "Is that what you mean?" And he went, "Yeah, that was good." So that's the international language for it needs a bit of whatever that is. But you fall into that, and then you don't need language.
Yeah. It must have been the same for the younger actors as well, in terms of you saying that John Hurt and stuff, and Tom Hardy, I know you've worked with in quite a few films recently and stuff. Stephen Graham as well, who just thinks absolutely.
Tom Hardy and Stephen Graham were so nervous about working with Gary. Remember that? I mean, they were so nervous.
Shaky nervous? Wow.
Shaky nervous.
Wow. And there's a great scene we're going to check out right now with you and Stephen Graham right now. Must have been a
Lovely.
great.
Did you hear the woman answering in the phone? She said hello. Did you hear that?
Oh.
It was Robyn.
Hey, that was
What
a big moment.
Robyn.
Yeah.
Can I say thank you as well for getting Kathy Burke back on screen? Because she's just. Oh, my heart skipped a beat when she came back on screen. It's been so long since I've seen her. She's great, and that's the great thing is everyone adds their own little emotion and kind of sort of thread to the story as well. It's just great. You described Gary as the Swiss Army knife of actors.
Yeah.
Just tell us what you meant by that, please, Thomas.
Well, if you look at what he's done.
That again.
Yes, no.
Yeah. He has made so many different parts and totally convincing. And you could also see that he has chosen parts with great taste. We were shooting a scene that's not in the film where we should depict Smiley's retirement. And it's Smiley alone in his kitchen with a little apron, frying an egg. That's it. It's a very still moment. And afterwards, Gary came up to me to look at it in the monitor, and he was mumbling, "I used to be Sid Vicious."
Amazing.
Sid Vicious.
Been waiting for this one to come along, though. This role.
I've been waiting. Yeah, it's the role of a lifetime, and I mean, I don't know. I'm told that it was Tim's idea, or it came to him, and then shared it with Tomas, and he agreed that it was a good idea. But it is. I've been waiting 30 years. He's my hero, giving me this part.
Thank you.
Hug. There's the two people that are Smiley's kind of personal protagonists in the film, his wife and Carla, who we never see. It's brilliant. That's a brilliant, just really. I don't know whether it should be important, but it was. I found it important. Was it important to you too?
It was, and I think that is the two most important persons to Smiley, and they don't have much screen time, but they are mentioned a lot, and they are sort of two ghosts, and I thought it would be more tasteful not to show them, and Smiley even refers to in that fantastic monologue to Carla, and he can't remember his face. So I thought it was strange if we were to know how he looked, but not him.
Yeah, I love that when you reenacting the conversation with him in the room.
In the cell.
Yeah,
and it also it saves us going back, having a flashback.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was very brave of them, 50 minutes in or whatever it is, to have a 7-minute soliloquy. Yeah,
it's beautiful.
You don't often get the chance, and of course, you know, you can sometimes do the work or think you're doing the work or hope that you've done the work, and then of course when you see the movie, you've sometimes, occasionally, suffered under the hands of an editor. And here, Tomas, you know, if people like the performances in the movie, I think it's also really credit to Tomas, who has photographed it and allowed the performances to breathe. Because it could be there, but could be just cut to a shambles, and that's that's credit to.
Did you leave much out?
Not.
No.
There are a couple of scenes. There's one scene that I really miss, but it didn't work where it was written for, and we had to. But otherwise,
I've worked on films where you've cut out whole storylines. I'm sure you have as well.
Yeah.
It's nothing like that. This is really remarkable.
There was one scene where I wrestle naked with Colin Firth. But
DVD extra, possibly.
Tomas?
Yeah, why not?
We've in every interview that I've heard you guys do, everyone wants to know if we're going to get more. Robyn, let's ask you that question. Are we going to see more Smiley?
We're thinking about it.
Okay.
Who knows? Maybe, maybe not, is the honest answer.
Would you do it, Gary?
If the same team were assembled with Robyn and Peter Strawn, the writer, and Tomas. I mean, I missed George when he became like my alter ego, or like a buddy.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to look forward to going into work and sort of, putting him on, you know, like a suit or something. And then when I finished, you know, I would sort of look over my shoulder and I would say, "Where's George?" You know, and I'm there on the set as Commissioner Gordon. I sort of missed George, you know. Yeah.
I'm sure we're going to get a question about that. Are you guys ready to ask some questions? Yes, nodding of the heads. You're right in there. You give me a nod and you got a lovely, beautiful, smiley face. Tell us your name as well when you ask the question, please.
Oh,
There you go. Yes, you do.
Krista.
Hi,
Hello.
Krista.
Krista.
Firstly, I love the film. Absolutely adored it. I saw it a couple of weeks ago. I was lucky enough to get an early screening. Gary, clearly Alec Guinness played a slightly different Smiley. He was a bit, I don't know how you describe him, maybe cuddly or something. You know,
Huggable.
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 Did you have any kind of concerns about taking on this iconic role with this great performance of Alex? I loved your performance. I thought if you don't get an Oscar nomination, it's just like storming Oscar towers or something.
Well, the ghost of... I've been a fan of Guinness, so I love that tradition. It's Guinness and Sellers for me, you know, with the disguises. It's the Swiss Army knife, you know, it's dressing up and putty noses and all of that. But the ghost of Guinness was obviously there because he was so successful in the role, and it was very much beloved by people. But I think there were maybe characteristics of the role that he didn't play that I think are there. There's a sadism to George, and he can be quite cruel. And there's also a masochism to him. So he can be the attacker because he is a master interrogator, and at one time he was fierce in a room. He's fired a gun before. You know, he has been an operative. He's been someone who has been out there in the front lines. But look at the strange thing that he has this betrayal, the ultimate sort of betrayal, and the breaking of marriage vows. And this is not the first time that Anne has been away, and it's suggested that she's sort of shagged everyone at the circus, and he has been cuckolded, and you never get the sense that they argue or that he mentions it, and he never goes after the lover. He just takes her back and forgives her in here. But there must be a fire and a rage, and then, of course, what he believes in is being contaminated, and that's what Carla is doing. Not only to the circus, and you know, but to it's a global thing, you know. So that betrayal, as well, is really. Those are elements that I don't know if they were there in the Guinness portrayal, and I'm not comparing myself, those were things that I got from the book and the discussions with Tomas. There's a melancholy. There's a huge heartbreak. He's a very, very wounded man.
Great answer. Next question. Man right at the back.
Hi, I'm Daniel. I saw the film yesterday. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was sort of almost fetishistically English. Quiet, understated, and remarkable for having been directed by a non-Englishman. But I wonder, were there ever any moments when you thought that you should crank up the pace, that you should sort of adhere to conventions of traditional spy films, which has more sort of heart racing action and so on? Were there ever any moments when you felt under pressure to do that by the story or by other forces outside?
The hard thing, one of the hardest thing about making movies, I think, is, for example, if you make a comedy, you sit in front of the script for the first time and you open it and you you laugh at something in the script. Then you have to go through financing the film, casting the film, discussing it, shoot it, edit it, re-edit it, and from that first laughter to the final product, you have to sort of stick to your first impression, that little laughter, because I promise you won't laugh at it after 3 years, but you should trust that. And it's the same with this kind of a film. If you read it and you get a sort of an idea of the pace and how it should look and how it should be staged, you should stick to that. If you listen too much to people who want it to be differently, I think you lose your integrity, and then the film will flatten.
Thank you. Next question. Gentleman in the back row there.
Hi, name's John. It's a question for Gary, really. I read that your sister is Mo Slater in EastEnders. I was just wondering, would you ever want to appear in EastEnders doing a cameo like I did in Friends that time, maybe? I've done so many different films.
Why is that funny? Why?
Do you watch EastEnders?
No. No, I'm serious. Why
I think
is
it's
that
funny
funny?
because he's only just discovered it.
Yeah.
In a word, no.
Okay.
I love her dearly, though.
So do we. Are you waving to me for a question, lady there? No? I can't see if that light. There we go. Thank you, yeah.
This is one for Gary. If you had to play another character in the film, who would you play?
Oh, if I had to play another character.
Superman.
In this film.
In this film. I like Jim Predo is a fabulous character.
Yeah. Good choice.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jim Predo.
You got it.
Yeah. There you go. Jim Predo.
Then the next one.
Yeah.
Prosthetics.
Swapsies? Yeah. Face off. In the front row over there, please.
Hi, my name's Robert.
Speak up, Robert.
Question for Gary.
Yeah.
Jason Isaacs, when he done Harry Potter talk, said that during the filming of Order of Phoenix, the fight scene between you and him, you come up with some interesting yet violent ways of how to defeat each other. Could you elaborate on that? Because Jason wouldn't.
I can't, to be very honest with you, I can't remember. I think it was the fact that there's only so many times you can do that. You know. So I think it was a bit of that. Bit of that, I don't know. You know, Shazam. Yeah.
Bit of Zorro.
Bit of yeah. I mean, you've got
Mix
a stick.
up a bit.
You've got a stick, and you feel very silly because you go in Procto or in whatever it is, you know, and you're like this, you know, and it's a bit of wood. And then they put it all on later, and then because you see the movie, and then you go, oh, that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
Well, then he'd done this and told you that.
Yeah, it's just that. It's just
next question, please. Yeah, the lady right there. Hello.
Hi, I'm Jess. And Gary, I'll ask you if you find it easier to act when you have a book to relate to instead of a script, like when you have here and when you've done Harry Potter and that kind of stuff.
Well, the script. When there's no book, the script is the book, I guess. You know, we had the book here, in a sense, to me, was the Bible. It was it was the source that you kept going back to. As I think Tomas and Peter, you know, when in doubt, go back to that material. It depends, you know. I mean, there's certain roads that are laid with something like this that to an extent you have to follow, and with a fictional piece, you even with Sirius Black, you know, but with a fictional piece you can let your you know, you still engage your imagination, but you know, with something that's fiction, you can let it, and this is fiction, but you can let it run wild.
As a filmmaker, though, does having a book make it more difficult for you in terms of, and especially a book that is, you know, so well loved, that bit, oh, you didn't keep that bit in, or you know, does it make it harder for you when there is that Bible, I guess, that kind of refers to?
It can be for a while, but at some point you have to decide, okay, this is mine now. This is going to be made my way, and I mean, you can't do a great film being nervous or afraid. I mean, and of course it was initially like it seemed almost impossible, an impossible task. But you have to put that away.
Yeah, take ownership of it.
Yeah.
Next question, please. Hello. Sorry, I'm making you run.
This is for anyone, really. I was just wondering, I haven't read the book or seen the TV show, I've only seen the film. So I was just wondering, the characters, I feel like there's lots that I don't know about them. In particular, Mark Strong's, I feel a lot of it is in his eyes, and I feel like I should know more. I was just wondering if the actors were told more about their characters that doesn't end up in the film, in order to be able to show it in the film, because particularly Colin Firth and Mark Strong, there's a lot of just eye acting there that I found quite emotional, but I don't really know what I'm watching, really.
I think it's implied, though, isn't it? In the book.
It is, and as you say, a lot of films today, I think, is like they write you on the nose with everything, what to feel and what exactly has happened. I like films where you get invited as an audience to have your own thoughts, and that everything isn't decided, that it isn't airtight in that way, so that you also get active as an audience when you see the film. It's a little harder, but it's a lot of fun, I think. And there are a lot of stuff in this film that is not decided exactly what has happened, but I think it's a great thing.
That suspense that you managed to create, in terms of, you never really know. You're always questioning each one of them, you know, in terms of what their role is, what their relationship is with this one and that one and stuff. We've got one more clip that we want to show actually as well, which is Benedict Cumberpatch, who blasts into the room, and probably the only time we're going to see Tom Hardy pummeled on the screen.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at this one. How many takes? Can you remember how many takes there were on that?
I remember.
Yeah?
Yeah. On Benedict. 3.
Wow.
Doesn't do a lot of takes, does he?
Is that good for you? Is that a good thing for you?
Yeah, he thinks so. No, I'm used to.
You weren't so happy in the beginning.
No,
you were like, what is this?
No, Tomas is this thing where he sits there at the he can see. He's not completely like closed off at the monitor, but often he can see what's going on, and he has the picture here for sort of reference. And when he likes a take, he goes, cut. and I know that means it's a print and we're moving on. So I would hear
know
that. Yeah. So I would hear that. I would hear. We'd cut. We'd finish take 2, and then I would hear print, and I would go, we're moving on. But I got used to it. Yeah.
Any more questions? Lady right here. Hello. Sorry.
Hello, I'm Wendy. I'm
Wendy.
very much looking forward to seeing the film. Haven't seen it yet. Really looking forward to it. Congratulations on it, and I hope you get the Oscar, Gary. But I'm just wondering, throughout your career, what is your most favourite character that you've ever played?
George. Yeah, I would have to say, not just because I'm here, but yeah. And there's been a few that I've. The second, I think, the part that comes a close second to George is Mason Verger in Hannibal. For very different reasons. I was completely disguised, and it was my ultimate. You couldn't see me at all. I think even my ears were deformed, and I loved that. That was heaven for me. Yeah.
Do you feel quite vulnerable then when you're not kind of disguised or painted, or?
Well, George is obviously a little grey in the hair and spectacles, but yeah, you still sort of look at when you're doing it on the inside, when you're coming at it from the inside. It you get your days that are better than others, but it's a whole different thing. When you see it, then I see all the things. So with Hannibal, I was completely disguised, and I was just happy as a bee. Yeah, but this comes close. This is such an incredible part.
Hello. Sorry.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Charlotte. I was just wondering, Gary, I'm a massive fan of Nil by Mouth, and I was wondering if there's any chance you would be directing anything else soon, or any other projects in the making.
I've got a couple of things bubbling around in the next couple. Maybe in the next couple. I hope to come back and get behind the camera again, in a couple of years. Probably something very different, but
written.
Yeah, I hope so.
Writing and directing.
Yeah, I'm working on. I dusted something off. Funny enough, it shows you in a way how times have changed. Shortly after Nil by Mouth, in 97, 98, is the date on the first draft. I wrote a piece that was about a sex addict, about a guy who was married and then has a mistress, and really actually it's a movie about low self-esteem more than it is about sort of sex, but it was quite near the. It was done. I think it was done. It's written with the same honesty as Nil by Mouth, and I at the time I couldn't get any money, and no one really sort of wanted to touch it. It's quite misogynistic, but not. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's just I actually really served the character, and since we've had Intimacy, 9 songs, and now I believe that Shame is coming out, and that's how it was. I think it was something quite unusual back then.
Yeah, no one really talked about it.
No
or
one
wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
Next question. So next couple of years, do you reckon?
Yeah, I hope so.
Go Great.
Yes. Come and see me if I don't do it, and give me a remind.
I'll have him back here in 2 years.
Remind me. Charlotte said.
Okay.
Hi.
Hello.
It's Chloe.
Hi, Chloe.
This is a question for Gary. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and we were talking about how, Colin Firth was the big sort of Oscar-winning golden boy, but yet Gary Oldman is the name on top in this film. And he was saying that's because Gary is a Hollywood heavyweight, because you've earned your, the respect through the versatility and the complexity of the characters you play and stuff. But do you think, if you were to win an Oscar, which is obviously very likely, do you think in a way it could be kind of like selling out? Because you've always been slightly sort of, I suppose, anti-establishment in a way. Do you think that, what does it make you think if you were to win?
I don't know if I don't know if it would be. I don't know if it would be selling out. If I,
Cashing in.
Cashing in.
I think it's respect for respect's due. You look at someone like Daniel Day-Lewis is I guess a really good example of someone who kind of is very much a man who's very selective about what he does, and I don't feel
maybe
he's
a little
so
more
down.
selective than me. Well, look, if even who can say, because it's a ways away and one never knows how these things are, and they did indeed they gave it to an Englishman last year, so I don't know what the game is and what the politics are, but if I were to be nominated, then I can't think of any role and any project better than this. And if I were to win an Oscar, and it said George Smiley on it, it would be. I'd be very proud of that. Yeah.
And that's a lovely way to finish our Q&A this evening, I think. Thank you so much for your time, and huge congratulations to you all. I look forward to Smiley's People. Thank you so much for your time this evening and your questions. And it's out in cinemas now. For those of you who haven't seen it, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Go see it. Thank you very much, Gary Oldman. Come on.
And a respect that he commands, and that's why he can go to Gwilym and Mendel, because he's established these relationships over the years, and is very much respected within MI5, MI6.
Robyn, I'll come to you in terms of a film like this. For me, no one makes films like this anymore. Does that make it harder to get off the starting blocks?
It was a hard film to get made. This film was made. I'm not the sole producer. I produced it with Tim Bevan of Working Title, and this, I think, is the first film in 100 Working Title films that is a totally independent film, and there is a reason for that. This was never. It was originally conceived as a studio film, but I think it was too scary a prospect for a studio. And I think the significant thing about this film is it was made entirely with French money by Studio Canal, which gives you, because they're European, and because we had the support of Tim Bevan and Working Title, I think we made the film we wanted to make, which I think is unusual. In all our experience.
Thomas, would you agree?
Yes. Yeah.
Straight in. Yep, definitely, 100%. In terms of you, John le Carré was very much part of the process as well, wasn't he? Is that a help, or does it make it more nerve-wracking? Is it great to have that reference point there of the man whose words created these characters initially on hand?
I think in this case it was extremely helpful, and he was very generous to us, and he didn't interfere. But I suppose in some other case it could be quite disturbing, and it's not. You don't make the film for the author of the book. You make it for the audience. But John le Carré was a fantastic source, and he's been a spy himself, which is quite thrilling. And
sit him down and just pull those stories out of him as you having coffee.
You don't need to pull them out. He's a jukebox. You just push a button and he starts telling all these stories.
Is that helpful for?
Well, I think in the same way that the film's incredibly rich, he is an incredibly rich human being. You know, he has very original points of view on everything, and I think we've tried to convey that, and I think they've done it really successfully in this film. Yeah,
I was quite nervous, sort of meeting him, what's amazing is he's 80 this year, I think in October. And it's
just makes me want to see it again, and I've seen it 3 times already. Please welcome to the stage director of the film, Tomas Alfredson, producer Robyn Slovo, and Smiley himself, Mr. Gary Oldman. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Let's get right in, if that's okay. Tomas, I want to start with you. I mean, congratulations to you all. What an amazing opening weekend you guys have had, and deservedly so. Tomas, no one makes films like this anymore. This is a breath of fresh air. In terms of you as a film fan, in terms of, I don't know, do you take inspiration from other films when you approach a new project yourself?
I try not to.
Okay.
I try to look at, paintings or listen to music or find things in real life. I look at a lot of films, but I do it for pleasure.
What did you want to achieve with this film?
You don't know that. It's just something. You read a script and you get a lot of images when you read it or not.
Yeah.
And you don't decide on, like, I want to do this, but you decide I want to start doing this. So you never know, really.
Does it evolve as you're making the film as well? Is that kind of, does it become something different than what you started out wanting to make?
Yeah, it does. It does, for me. It does.
When you're putting together a cast like this as well, because I mean the chemistry and the tension between all your when you see everyone sat around that table and stuff, it's incredible. Was it a case of you had, the names in your head as to who you saw in those roles, and who would work well together?
Well, it's in this case it was crucial to have the right Smiley, so we didn't start the casting before we had Smiley, and that was a hard one.
Why was it hard?
Well, I don't know really, but I think one thing is that he's described as someone you would immediately forget.
Nice.
But Gary is the kind of actor that could, act that as someone you would forget.
Yeah.
But it's a big difference between that and actually forgetting him.
Yes, acting anonymity as opposed to being someone who was just anonymous. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's in terms of you, Gary. You said that you were surprised that you were approached to do Smiley. Is that true?
Well, yes, because I thought I would be too young to play Smiley. And
everyone said, "Oh no."
Yes, and everyone said, "Who are you kidding?" But then I discovered that Tomas wanted to cast the film a little younger across the board, and there's the sort of image of Alec Guinness that had played I mean, many people have played Smiley, from James Mason to Anthony Hopkins to Alec Guinness, but I think he was in his late 60s when he played him. So I guess I just had that in my head.
Yeah.
That he was an older man. But I'm awfully glad that they asked me. Yeah.
He's very much an outsider, isn't he, Smiley? But you see throughout the film, he relishes that the task that he's been given, and you see him grow in strength, I think, through the film as well.
Yes, he's an insider who becomes an outsider, but on the outside still has there's a loyalty